Welcome back, radio entrepreneurs, listeners, and fans. I'm producer Jillian King, and I'm excited to introduce you all to the Fall 2024 FBA Family Business Panel Discussion, revealing the secrets to family business success, 2024 Building Your Great Family Business. In this panel, we will be exploring a range of topics to help you build your great family business. Before we get into the discussion, allow me to introduce our panelists. Today, we have two returning panelists that you should know well. Stephen Wilchins of Wilchins, Cosentino, and Novins, and Richard Hirschen of Gray, Gray & Gray. Welcome. Glad you can be with us today. Next, I'm excited to introduce our guest panelists. Valerie Post of Post Properties, The Point, BodyWaves, and Meridian Realty Group. Samantha Post of Meridian Realty Group. Larry Post of Post Properties, The Point, BodyWaves, and Meridian Realty Group, and Christopher Perry of Northern Trust Wealth Management, New England. Finally, I would like to introduce the panel's moderator, radio entrepreneurs, host, and CEO of Mage LLC, Jeffrey Davis. Welcome, Jeffrey. I will now hand the conversation over to you.
Thank you, Jillian, and thank you to all our panelists. And we do like to focus in on all of 2024 family business and the successful formulas that they're all using to keep the economy going. And let me get right into this right away to the Post family and then to our panelists as well. You know, never saw two businesses that were exactly the same. And in family businesses, there's always something unique to every family business. Do you feel that your family business had sort of the secret sauce, the special ingredient that made you unique to being successful and being in business?
I guess I'll start. Good morning, everybody. I don't think we had a secret sauce. I think it was hard work, a little bit of luck, and just keep on plugging no matter what happened. We were fortunate all the children stayed close by. They were always willing to help out when we needed it. They sort of grew up in the businesses. What do you think, Sammy?
Sure. I think we saw that you'll see Valerie and Larry. We just saw them work. They work pretty much all the time. They're 24/7. So we definitely got a good example of what, and they love what they're doing too, which I think is really important.
Did they always work together?
They seem to.
So you know what? I'll jump in and say when Val and I have been married about 5 years, I think, and our wedding money was $3,000, and we took that $3,000 and bought our first investment piece of property. It was a condo in Boston. We still own that unit today. It produces a 200% per year return. And we both, Val leased equipment. I was in the military, both had jobs. And on our spare time, we just kept looking at real estate. And we just started buying real estate. And over the years, we've acquired, we have 75 tenants today, plus a bar, a massage business. And Val has a huge real estate business. So we turned our corporate jobs into this kind of our retirement gig is running all these little, the real estate and the other businesses we have.
What was it that attracted you to real estate?
Good question.
I was stationed in the military in California, and people were buying condos in 1979. I moved back to Boston. Actually, it was 1978, I think. And if you said condo in Boston, someone would say own an apartment in an apartment building. That's ridiculous. And we said, this is in California. It's probably going to come to the East Coast. Let's try it. So we bought our first unit, as I said, with our wedding money. Val, tell the story what your dad said.
So I want to go back for 1 second. What I think attracted us to real estate is that it was tangible. I had a way of being successful in the stock market that basically whatever my father bought, we sold, and what he sold, we bought. And that was a pretty successful system to get started with. But I'm from Syracuse, and my parents were visiting. And we were walking around the North End, and we happened to be passing by this property that we had bought that Larry mentioned for our wedding. And I said to my dad, I said, "Oh, Dad," I said, "we just bought a condo in that building." And he said, "What's a condo?" We said, "It's an apartment." And he said, "How much did you pay?" And I said, "We paid $35,000. He said, "You paid $35,000 for a tenement building?" And we said, "No, we paid $35,000 for one unit." in a tenement building. And as Larry said, it's been very successful. We then proceeded to buy several units in the same building over the years. So it was a different world then. You could buy 2 acres and a gorgeous house in Syracuse for $35,000, and all you were getting was a little 500 square foot place, but worked out great.
Did you have a strategy as you were growing it?
We were not willing to lose money. So we looked and said, you put 10% down, it's got to cover all of its costs. I think we knew the rental market pretty well, so we could take and look and say, what were the rents? What could we charge for them? But when everybody else was saying, we don't care if we lose money, we're going to get depreciation, we're going to get this, we're going to get that. From a cash flow point of view, they had a cash flow out. That was the most important stuff to us. And I think the strategy originally started with, we looked and said, we want to buy 1 unit a year. That was our goal. After buying 3 or 4 units, we looked and said, you know what, these HOA fees, I think we can do it just as well without having that. Let's try a small building, and I think we can renovate them. Ignorance was bliss. What we didn't know was what was helpful. So, and then we went from there, doing the renovations.
I'm actually going to take what you said to the side. I'm going to take it to one of our panel members, Rich Hirschen. Rich, she said the golden rule. She always believed in making money. They always believed in making money. And how many family businesses forget that rule when they're running their family businesses? I'm going to put it to you because that seems to be the golden rule that too many families forget.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jeff, that, most people are in business to make money, and sometimes family things and other dynamics sort of get in the way of that. So I do think it's important to have that, as the guiding light of what you're trying to accomplish in the business, and make sure decisions you make, whether it's additional investments or now as you've grown, taking on headcount or, whatever it may be, of trying to think, hey, if we add this person, is it going to pay for itself? And, it's an investment we're making in our company, maybe in the infrastructure of the company, and making sure that there's a payoff on that. So I think that's a healthy way to approach business decisions.
So I want to make a distinction to what Rich said, though. Making money in the company versus compensating yourself. And I'd like to know what Larry and Val and Sammy thought about compensating themselves or worrying about making it profitable in the business.
Good question.
We should point out that Val, when I was in the military, I think I was making $15,000. Val leased heavy equipment. She was making $100,000 a year, she was the top salesperson for a company called Equilease. This was when there were investment tax credits prior to '86. So, and after I left the military, I worked for corporate America. I worked for Ameriprise for 34 years. We really had corporate jobs, and the real estate just became our sideline. It was almost our hobby. And over the years, we've acquired all these different properties and these other businesses as a sideline to corporate America. And since I retired, and maybe since Val for the last 15 years, she's turned her real estate into her real estate business, aside from the property we own, into a decent sized business. So all this family business, we don't really think of it as a family business. It's just our investments have become kind of our full-time gig right now, if that makes sense.
And you might want to ask Samantha, because I think she feels like underpaid, overworked, but doesn't mind for the long run. What do you think, Sammy?
Welcome to the family.
I just started with her business, with Valerie's business at Meridian Realty Group about 2.5 years ago. So this is still relatively new to me. I did join my mom when she first started in real estate 15 years ago as a salesperson. And that was my hardest summer job I've ever had, seeing her work those hours. And she just grew the business from there. That was the Meridian Realty that she's grown in the past 15 years.
At which we then changed it into a franchise from Engel and Volkers.
Right. So Sammy, I'm just curious. Your dad says it's like an investment, it's side business, but how are you going to view it over the next few years?
In terms of, so I think with that, I guess with Val's business, it's more, we have employees too. So instead, and besides the investment part, there is kind of an operations part to the business too. I don't know if that answers that question.
So
Well, how
I
about
think Sammy's being nice. She has an MBA and she has a CPA also. One of the things that Samantha has done was we have a sales and leasing side and we have a property management side. The property management side really just bumbled along until Samantha came in. She took over the operations about 2.5 years ago and has actually turned it around significantly by looking at the numbers, really evaluating that part of the business. She changed the software around. She put a new software system in, put the whole new accounting department in. It's been a major change for us since Samantha's been there.
Well, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go sidebar, but before I do, I'm just going to make a comment. Samantha, don't be surprised if Rich reaches out to you today to run his real estate group at Gray, and Gray. So, so he's going to solicit you. But Chris, I think you have an interesting take on this as well from what I'm hearing, and that is a lot of families in real estate, they look at this as their sole investment pot. Now, you look at families that diversify their investment pot in this world and also build that pot. And I want, and I've had that discussion with many of my clients of you don't always want your eggs in one basket. So I just thought maybe you'd want to put a sort of spin on this as well, which is good for families.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, and I think this is such a compelling story, and Sammy, to have you on the call is great. Family businesses that are enterprising and successful. There's a multi-generational aspect, and clearly your presence here and your ability to contribute to the family business is helping it grow, and it's a tremendous story. I'd love to hear more about that. I do think, Jeff, you raise a great point with real estate. The tax advantages of rolling real estate into more real estate and holding it and growing it are so compelling that it's easy to be very concentrated. And what we've seen from kind of a wealth planning standpoint is the advantages of thinking about succession planning and thinking about intergenerational transfers of wealth, and then B, thinking about taking some of that wonderful cash flow from the real estate and diversifying and investing in a way that complements the real estate that is kind of the growth engine for the family. I'd love to kind of come back to Sammy, to you, and thinking about when, as you were coming along in the family business, when did you realize you'd actually really love to, put your shoulder behind supporting the family business as the rising generation?
So I think to kind of put a side note to here. So my brother who's also not on the call, he helps a lot more with my dad with the kind of the investments that they own, the real estate. So my dad and my brother pretty much run that themselves, that side of it. I came on more on the Meridian Realty group, which is actually completely separate from their own investments. We're a third-party property management company. So as when you're talking about diversifying, that's a different income that we see as a source. Kind of, my dad's doing his own property management for his own properties. So at Meridian Realty Group, and then my mom also has Engel & Volkers, which she does residential sales. That's kind of the diversifying of the different companies. That being said, I joined, as I said, I was an accountant for the past 10 plus years at various much larger companies. And I think as I said, I just wanted to kind of try something different, kind of still use the accounting, my MBA skills, but now I get to kind of see how the whole business is run, not just see how one thing is run. So that's kind of where I wanted to kind of learn more in my career as well, which really have been very fortunate to kind of see how a small business is run. It's been really exciting and a lot of hard work too.
Wow.
Chris, your comment on diversification, I'm going to guess, and Steve Wilchins may know this better, but Of our total net worth, probably 60% is in real estate, but 40%, maybe even 50% is in equities. So I've been a big equity buyer for the last 45 years.
To add on to that, Steve, I think we got involved with your law firm, what, 5-6 years ago, and it's actually Steve Wilchins that has said to us, what do you do with the family business? How do you make it grow? How do you make it stay? What are your goals? Where do you see it a generation from now, 2 generations from now? And Steve has asked us some really tough questions as to how we want to, what direction we want to go to. And he sort of kept us in line as to how to grow it, being able to transfer it as easily as possible. So thank you, Steve.
Pleasure.
Well,
Thank you.
based on that, I have a follow-up question, and I think this has been great so far. It's been very energetic. We will have 3 segments on this particular topic for radio entrepreneurs. You know, thinking back over the years, can you think about some of the mistakes and failures you may have made that made the family or the family business better?
The biggest mistake, some of the biggest mistakes we made, Val has a realtor in her office that said, when asked when's the best time to buy real estate, his answer is 5 years ago. I can give you a tour of the city. Val and I made the building when they were asking $100,000 for the building. We offered 95. The guy counted at 97, and we said no. You know, that building today is worth $6 million, and we were fighting over $3,000. So in hindsight, a lot of the mistakes we made is there's a lot more stuff we could have bought, and we were just so focused on negotiating. We didn't understand the asset would be such a huge value 30, 40 years later.
Interesting.
Good insight. So, you know, as a follow-up with that, and I think this is, you know, a lot of us learn through experience, through failures, or maybe little mistakes. Is there anything in looking backwards that you'd like to do differently now that you have hindsight?
Definitely buy more in the dips. When the real estate market went down in, was it 08, 09, 010, we bought a couple buildings. We should have bought a couple more. So I do think there will be dips in the market in both equity and real estate, and take advantage of those when those happen. I think Buffett's line is, when people are fearful, be greedy. When people are greedy, be fearful.
Very good.
Good advice.
Any follow-up from the panelists as we get towards the end of this segment? If not, how have you managed and are you managing your transition?
I think our transition is sitting next to us, and the other side of our transition is our son that's working with Larry on handling a lot of the properties. We do have a 3rd child, and if she wants to come in, we will welcome her as well. We also, in the England Volker's Meridian side, we have a wonderful woman whose name is Jillian, also spelled the same as Jillian, and she's been with us for almost 15 years. I would see her as being a partner down the line with, you know, Samantha, and whatever, you know, real estate venture they decide to go off on.
It sounds like
her and Samantha work really side by side, very, very thoroughly.
It sounds like Larry, your business, and Valerie, your business are kind of separate, and you each have one of your child as part of that business. Do you see both companies sort of growing independently and one child maybe taking over each, or do you look to kind of keep it all combined within the family?
So the business that Larry's doing now, I was doing when he was working full time in, you know, his corporate job. I had taken off, you know, years to raise the children. I don't think they would be necessarily separate, because the real estate has so much value that I think the kids will, you know, figure out how to manage the buildings amongst themselves. That's our goal, hopefully, but whatever the kids decide to do. Again, Steve has set it up as far as the estate planning goes, where we'll be making some joint decisions. as to how to handle things.
Well, we will be doing going into more transition questions in our next segment, and it's time for our producer to take over. Jillian?
Thank you, Jeffrey. That wraps up part 1 of this fall 2024 edition of the FBA Family Business Panel discussion. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers who have tuned in for this first segment on Radio Entrepreneurs. Links will be provided in the video's description below to parts 2 and 3 of the discussion to hear more on these topics. So be sure to check out those links and click subscribe just below the video if you're on YouTube, or follow if you're listening on one of our podcast platforms to stay up to date on all our postings as they go live. If you're a fan of our videos, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and press the bell button. It helps immensely. Radio Entrepreneurs is also active on LinkedIn, so be sure to follow our page there as well for more business advice and discussions. Until next time, goodbye and thanks for listening. We'll be back with more stories on Radio Entrepreneurs.